Does learning bar chords give you the blues?
Blues ain't nothing but a good man feeling bad.
I'm here to turn that frown upside down. If you've been playing guitar for a little while now and you've got down like some open chords and some single string stuff, the next place you're likely to venture is into learning bar chords. You know, those things that hurt like a when you try to play them right. And I talk about this in my lesson about the first 6 months of learning guitar and the things that you learn in that period. But today I want to go into more detail specifically on these bar chords, more than just playing the single bar itself, but playing the actual first couple of chords that you're going to learn as bar chords. All right, so in that first 6 months lesson, I talk about how to just do the bar by itself when you're first learning and making sure all the notes are clean. I'm going to quickly review that here. And I always have my students usually, I don't know. I generally have my students start in the middle of the fretboard because it's easier to hold down the strings around the 5th, 7th fret than on the 1st fret and get their strength up and work their way down towards the 1st fret. And this is assuming that you have a guitar that's set up correctly, of course. If your guitar has like really high action where the strings are far away from the fretboard, like some old acoustic that maybe was lying around, it can be really difficult to play these things correctly. And that's kind of not your fault. If your guitar isn't set up right, you're never going to get these things right. You'd have to have like fingers of steel. Yeah, play guitar with these. Who's sexy now? So anyway, as a quick review, we're playing the bar on the 7th fret and you're just taking your first finger and using like the edge of it about 45 degrees and holding down all 6 strings. And when you press down, you want to be as close to the fret that's this side, like as close to the bridge of the guitar, not the middle of the fret, not back towards the neck, but as close to that fret as you can get. And you're just making sure you can get all the notes. See, that one was dead there. You want to get them all to sound out correctly. And that means you're starting to build the strength, the pinching, like that muscle in here is getting strong enough. So now the first bar chord, or first group of bar chords pair, is the 6-string bar chords where you're barring all the notes. And a major chord looks like this. I'm going to play this on the 5th fret in A major. And I'm going to show you what each one of the strings are. But before I do that, I want to point out that you know which chord you're playing based on whatever the first string is. So if you know that this open string by itself is an E, and you count your way up the frets, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, and so on. Whatever that note is, when you play that major chord, it's that major chord. It's one of the things that makes guitar really easy as an instrument to learn and not know kind of any music theory because it's all symmetrical. I don't have to learn different shapes like I would on a keyboard. On the guitar, I learned the major chord, and now I know all the major chords. Okay, so that said, you're going to bar, we're going to do the A major, the 5th fret all the way across. Now you're going to take your 3rd finger, the ring finger, and you're going to play it on the 7th fret of the 5th string. Then your pinky is going to go right under that, and that will be the 7th fret of the 4th string. And then you're going to get your middle finger, your 2nd finger stuffed right in there on the 6th fret of the 3rd string, and then the bar continues. Your 1st finger is still holding down the 5th fret. So it's 5th fret, 7th fret, 7th fret, 6th fret, 5th fret, 5th fret. And that is your basic major chord in the first bar form, the all 6 strings one. Now, a nice easy thing about this, if you want to play the minor chord variation of it, everything's exactly the same, except you lift up your middle finger. You basically take your audience and you flip them the bird. Well, kind of, you're not sticking it up that much. And that's the minor chord. So if I want to play any major chord, it's just F major here on the 1st fret. If I count my way up to, say, the 8th fret, what note is that? If this was an A sharp, B, C, there's a C major or a C minor. So that's your basic first major chord. If you're able to fret and do the bar, that bar all by itself, this shouldn't take too long to get, maybe a week or 2 of practicing on and off before you get all the notes clean, because you're turning your finger a little bit back that way where you're not quite as 45 degrees with it as you were when you were just working on the bar by itself. Now we talk about the 2nd chord form, which is only 5 strings. It's going to be the same major and minor chords, but they're the other common bar chords. And the first of these is a little bit difficult. I'll do this again starting on the 5th fret. And so you're not barring all 6, you're just barring these 5 because you're doing these chords based on the 5th string as the root. So I have an A instead of starting with the E, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D. So we're building a D major chord. and you're going to bar here. And then this one is the one that took me the longest. This is a little bit tough because you're using the flat part of your third finger in here, and you're just kind of laying it across 3 of the strings. So you have the 5th fret, that whole bar. Now I have the 7th fret of the 4th string, the 7th fret of the 3rd string, and the 7th fret of the 2nd string. And I'm playing those by mashing that one finger down and bending it kind of weird. If you're playing the whole chord properly, you've actually got just enough of the finger cleared so that I can get that 5th fret of the 1st string. At first, that is next to impossible, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Now, the minor chord is actually quite a bit easier here because it looks just like the major chord of the other form, and you're back to using your fingertips again. And so it's the 5th, the 7th on the 4th string, the 7th on the 3rd string, and the 6th on the 2nd string. So that looks just like that A major, but you've just switched down to the 5th string set. And it's the same thing again, where it's, here's a B on the 2nd fret, C minor, C sharp minor, D minor. They're all portable. Once you learn it in one spot, you know it everywhere. So now the thing I wanted to come back to is talking about what I consider like little bits of cheats with these chords, because you don't always have to play all the notes of a chord to really get the feel of what the chord's about, especially in rock music where you're kind of doing this chuggy kind of, they call these things power chords, where you play just 2 or maybe even 3 of the notes. And you'll see that commonly. You'll see guys play like this D chord, this D major. They might just play the 1st and 2nd note of it though. I very frequently like to play the whole bar, and then just because I like using my fingertips more than that weird chord, and I play the 5th, 7th, 7th, and then I just let the bar ring. This creates a slightly different chord. It's called the sus9 chord, which is for a more advanced lesson, but it sounds kind of cool. And I do this for the sets of chords that are the 5-string chords, the 2nd set. On the first ones, I tend to actually play them because they're easier. They're all fingertip chords. And one last extra note I want to talk about here is in modern rock music, it became very common to change the tuning of the guitar and tune this E string down to a D, which I'm going to do right now. And what that creates, it's like you would have to move your finger. Since I moved it down 2 frets, a whole step, you would have to almost move your finger up, or you would have to move your finger up 2 frets to create the same chord. So these bar chords just become simple, like your 101, just learning to bar the strings, and your power chords are just laying your finger down like. So it's kind of a little bit of a cheat, but it also sounds cool, open D. So if you're kind of savvy with open chords, you may have also noticed that when I'm playing these chords, they're just extensions of open chords that you know. So if you play like an E major chord, and you want to go up to the F major, all you've really done is, instead of using these fingers, I've switched to these. And you think of the open strings, or the nut of the guitar here, as the first bar. And when you move up a fret, that becomes the bar. Same thing happened with like an A minor chord. I have switched to these fingers. And when I go up a fret, I need to use my finger almost as if it's the nut or a capo, a moving capo, and play the chord. So that's another way to think of it if you know your open chords well and you want to think about moving them up. All right, so when you're learning these things, keep in mind that it takes a while to get it down, especially that first of the 5-string chords where you're using the flat of your finger. And your fingers are going to have to get used to it and build up the calluses and all that. That's all normal. It just takes some time. Don't work on it too many, minutes in a row. If it starts to hurt a little bit, take a break, do something else, come back to it. You're going to learn faster if you break your practice sessions into little sprints rather than a long marathon. And I hope that made sense to you guys. And if you have any questions or comments or need me to elaborate any further, please leave a comment below. And I'm always happy to get back as soon as I can. And until next time, guys, keep making great music. Hey friends, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. It makes the whole world better.